welcome to our mystery Advent cowl, whatever you want to call it. This is part one. Now, part one, we're making this block here. This is called the Grassland block. This is a really, really easy block to make. As you can see, I have not wet blocked this at this stage. All I've done is I've got it stretched out on my granny square blocker into a 20 by 20 grid granny blocker. So what we're going to do here is we're going to need a green yarn. So later on we're going to be doing a secondary block that's in another shade of green. So the only colours in this project that have a double up of shade are these two blocks. You are going to need 2 greens for this project, and there's going to be 5 of each block. So all I recommend is finding 2 different shades of green. What you will is up to you. The lighter of the 2 shades we're going to use for this Grassland block, and the darker of the shades is going to be used for the other block that's coming further down the line. So with our lighter of the colours, what we're going to do is we're going to start by casting on some stitches. For this block here, we're casting on 40 stitches. So I'm going to cast on the 40 stitches and meet you back here. Alright, so we've casted on our 40 stitches here for this block. All of our blocks begin the exact same way. So what we're going to do is we're going to be knitting the first few rows. After the first row, I recommend slipping the first stitch of every other row. I don't slip the stitch on the first row simply because I feel like things need to get some depth to get started to make sure this stays nice and square. As you may have guessed, this is definitely a project with squares. I think if they're crocheted, they're granny squares. If they're knitted, they're peggy squares. That might just be a regional thing based on where I grew up. But it's a project that started with squares. What I'm hoping is that you're going to have several options as to how you put this together. And there's going to be some alternatives of what you can do to put together your projects if you don't end up with the recommended number of each one of these squares. Now for this Grassland block, it's a nice easy block, but you're going to need 5 of them for the finished design. If you don't get 5 of them made, don't stress. There are going to be some combination options down the line that I'm going to be able to show you of what you can do if you don't get 5 of each square. If you get 1 of each square, that should give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There'll be at least 9 different squares, not including any of the double ups. So there are options if you only get 1 of each square, but I do recommend trying to get the 5 so that you get the final finished project as envisioned by moi. Okay, so our second row and each row from this point onwards, we slip the first stitch and then we knit. So this is just because each of our blocks has a knitted border, a garter stitch border. The garter stitch border does have an aesthetic design in mind as to why it's there, and I'll explain that later on when the project becomes apparent as to what it is. It's not going to take too long for you to figure out what it is. I think you might have already figured out what the project is going to be. You might have figured out the theme of the project. We shall see. This has been something that's been marinating in the back of my head for quite some time, and I've been wanting to put it together. And finally, I've had the time and the mental space in order to actually make the squares in a way that fits the overall aesthetic, that's going to work with everything else in a way that's going to be interesting for other people to replicate. It's going to be a project you're going to either want to keep or give away. It's not Christmas themed at all, despite the fact that our first square is green. And you now know that one of our later squares are green. It's not a Christmas project, but I'm releasing it as an Advent project because with the Hobie not shipping to New Zealand, I've been wondering, what am I going to do for my Christmas Advent project for this year? I like having a Christmas Advent project. I've loved having the Christmas Advent bags and opening them up on the first Sunday of each month, seeing what's in the bag, and then making it. It's been an absolute joy. I picked up my first Hobie Advent, I think, in about 2021. And so I just enjoyed the process. Then they're not shipping here, so by the time I found a workaround of how I could get a Hobie one sent to me, it was too late, and they'd already sold out of 2 of the different projects, and I really didn't want to do another crochet advent. I prefer doing a knitting. I prefer their knitting advent. I think they're more interesting patterns, but I was hoping to do the amigurumi one, but the amigurumi one sold out really fast. If it ever came back, I'd probably, now that I know how to get it here, around their not shipping to the southern hemisphere nonsense, I might jump in on doing that. But what I did want is I wanted a project where nothing was going to get in anyone's way. If they wanted to participate, they could participate. So this is going to be released free. The entire pattern will be free all the way along. It's possible that when we get to the final end product, I might just release it as a paid pattern on Etsy or something along those lines. But I'm never going to take it off free on my website or on YouTube. It's just going to remain as all the different pieces, as different posts, and anyone can make it anywhere they like. I will put it together and say what it is so that it's not just a mystery project. But I thought it would be quite a nice one to do as an advent. There's a total of 25 squares. So if you wanted to do this over the course of the 25 days of Advent, that should be possible. There will be a couple of other steps along the way. So I actually think it's going to be more like, it might be more like 30 posts, but obviously it not 30 posts. It might be more like 25 posts, but they're not all going to be different knitting ones because there's 5 of this square. Yeah, so it can be done during the Advent time frame. It doesn't have to be. Right, so we've completed the first 4 rows, because the first 4 rows of our project and of all of our squares are just garter stitch rows with a slip stitch at the end. Now we're going to move on to this section here. Every single row on our right side is just knit. So it's a really easy, fast to work up square. So let's complete our knit row, and then I will join you for the row on the wrong side. Now the row on the wrong side is still really easy. This is the easiest block by far. It's just knits and purl stitches, though to be honest I think everything is just knits and purl stitches. Is it? It's basically knits and purl stitches with a couple of little bits and pieces. There will be some options at the end for additional items. That's very vague. And there will be some options at the end about how we construct this. And then again, if you don't get all the required pieces, it's going to include what you can make based on the squares that you have completed. So it should be a really cute project. I'm already in love with it, and initially my thought was to give this away as a Christmas present for 2025. Now I don't know if I want to give it away, or if I want to keep it all for myself, or if I just want to make many of them. Anyone who knows me well in real life knows that I'm probably not going to make many of them. I'm not much of a project repeater. So we're going to slip the first stitch, knit the next 4. Now we're going to purl 2, yarn backwards, and we're going to knit 4. Bring the yarn forwards, purl 4, yarn backwards, knit 4, yarn forwards, purl 4, yarn back, knit 4, yarn forward, purl 4, yarn backwards, knit 4. Don't worry, it's about to get more exciting. Here comes a change, yarn forward, purl 2, and then knit the last 4 stitches. And these are all of the rows of this block. You just repeat those last rows. I'm going to have to, oh no, it's untangled itself. So when we take a look at our finished block here, what you'll see we've got is that we've got this thinner strip up the side. That's our 2 purl stitches on the wrong side. And then we get this ladder stitch in between our rows of stockinette. So each row on this side here is knit, and each row on the other side is the slip 1, knit 3, purl 2, knit 4, purl 4, knit 4, purl 4, knit 4, purl 4, knit 4, purl 2, and then knit 4. It's not complicated. We're going to do that over 52 rows. I recommend counting your rows along the side edge here, just by counting, you know, each one of these is 2 rows. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 20. There are 60 rows in total on the square and on pretty much all of our squares actually. So we've got 4 rows at the start of this border here. We've got 52 rows of our ladder stitch pattern that we've just gone through, alternating those 2 rows. And then we've got 4 rows of garter stitch at the top, and then we bind off. How you cast on and how you bind off is completely up to you. Just do not do it too tightly, because we do want to be able to get these squares out to square. I'm going to wet block mine later, but in the meantime I'm just leaving everything dry blocking just to get the shape as a square as much as possible. I will see you tomorrow to work on square 2, but for the moment we're going to have 5 of these grassland squares, and tomorrow we're going to be back with, I think, our yellowy gold yarn.